Hello, awesome humans.
And it takes courage to say that your brain is not your master.
Hello, awesome humans. All right, today we're going to talk about working parent guilt and how to get out of it and shift out of it. And it's a tough topic, but I'm really excited to share with you some mindset shifts and some different ways to think about it so you can bust through the guilt, because we don't need to carry it around. Before I dive in, if you enjoy this video, please like it. It helps other people find it. Please comment. I love reading what's resonating. I always read your comments, and please subscribe to my channel. I share videos like this every single week to give you some fuel, to help you de-stress and feel a little bit more joy. So first of all, I need to tell you, I'm a working parent. I have been my whole life. My daughter is 16. Where does the time go? I don't know. My daughter Mia is 16. I have worked ever since she was born, and I get it. I get the guilt. I so get the guilt. I'm really good at guilt, you all. Like, I come from a family where guilt is something that we're good at. So I really get the feeling of feeling guilty when I am not with my daughter, guilty that I'm working too much, guilty that I'm taking time for my own self-care. It's really tough, and so many people share this with me. So let's talk about ways that we can shift out of, that we can work through, that we can get rid of working parent guilt. And I'm going to start with something that I think is a little bit challenging, but we gotta have a little tough love, okay? So we gotta start with a little bit of a challenging question, but this is something that's helped me a lot. Here is the thing. When you feel guilty, like when you're experiencing that emotion, when your thoughts are going, okay, oh my God, I'm not spending enough time with my kids, or whatever the thoughts are, can I ask you this question? Who does your guilt help? Like, does feeling guilty, does engaging in those thoughts and ruminating, does that help you spend more time with your kids? No. Does it help you better juggle work and family? No. Does it help you be a better parent? No. Guilt is something that is incredibly draining, and it doesn't have any purpose other than that. And so the first thing that I invite you and encourage you as passionately as I possibly can to do, if you're feeling that working parent guilt, is to ask yourself, does this guilt help anything? Does my swimming in these thoughts of guilt, does it help anyone in any way? And the answer is always no. And I realize that that's a tough question to ask, because guilt can feel like it's all consuming. But when you ask that question, like, who does my guilt help? It actually helps you to begin to shift. It helps you to begin to shift out of those thoughts and feelings of guilt that are not helpful to anyone, including your kids or your work or you, and to shift your thoughts. Which brings me to my second point. You are not your thoughts. You can talk back to your brain when it offers you a thought that is not helpful, that is draining, that does not help you do all the things you want and need to do, like be an awesome parent, like do awesome work. You can shift. I want you to think of the fact that when you have the thoughts of guilt, you are the one who's hearing those thoughts. You don't have to go along with them. You don't just have to get dragged along by your thoughts. So once you ask this question of, okay, who does this help? Like, does it help me be a better parent? Does it help me do better work, this guilt? And the answer is no. The second thing is to talk back to your brain, to shift out of that pattern of guilty thinking and to talk back to your brain. So what should you say? All right, let me tell you what I say to my brain, because even though my daughter, as I mentioned, is 16, I still get into that trap of, oh my God, I'm working too much. Like, oh my God, I have to do work on the weekend. I feel like crap. Or I'll be in the middle of my yoga class, which is a big part of my self-care. And I'll be like, oh my God, I feel so bad being here. I should really be with my daughter. Like, those are some thoughts I still have. When you have those thoughts and you know they're not helpful, here's what you can say back to your brain. Here's what I say back to my brain. Dear brain, these thoughts of feeling guilty are not helpful. They don't help me be a better parent. They don't help me do better at work. They're not helpful. They're just draining my energy, and I don't have unlimited energy. So instead, let's think of ways that I can, when I am with my kids, that I can be fully present and I can do stuff that we all enjoy. And let's think of ways that when I have to do work or when I'm doing something to fuel myself, that I can be fully present there. And one of the things that you can remind your brain about is that as a human being, you do not have unlimited energy, right? We all have a limited reservoir of emotional, mental, and physical energy, and this is our energy for the day. The more energy you spend on feeling guilty, on that working parent guilt, on the guilty thoughts, it drains your energy. So those thoughts are actually draining your ability to be a great parent that I know you want to be great at your work that I know you care about. That's the third thing I want to remind you of. Once you recognize those thoughts are not helpful, right, by asking who does it help, and once you talk back to your brain and remember that you don't have to go along with every thought that you have, the third thing is to really recognize that you do not have unlimited energy, and draining your energy with feeling guilty doesn't actually help anything. And the thing that I want to encourage you, and this is advanced practice, is to recognize that you impact people in your life, your kids, your partner, your friends, your colleagues. You impact people not just with things you do or say, but with your energy. So what kind of energy do you want to bring to your kids and your family? What kind of energy do you want to bring to your work, right? Research shows that when we feel fueled, we are better at our work. We make better decisions. We're better able to help other people. So I know the answer is that you would rather feel fueled, because then you can be the awesome parent that I know you want to be and be awesome at your work. Well, guilt drains your ability to do that. It drains your energy. And so I recognize this from my own experience. And again, this is kind of really painful to recognize, but I spend so much time, especially when my daughter was younger, feeling guilty. And all of those guilty thoughts, I brought that energy to my interactions with her. They drained my energy, and I brought that heaviness, that guilt into her life. And that's not what you want to be doing. And so remind yourself that you impact others, including your kids, including people at work, not just with what you do, but with your energy. So what kind of energy do you want to bring? Do you want to bring the guilty, stressed out, overwhelmed energy? No. And so that's another incentive to talk back to your brain and remind yourself that your guilt, the only function it has, it just drains you. And the final thing I want to share with you, so many working parents, when they talk about working parent guilt, the issue is not just that they feel guilty when they're working too much, or they feel guilty taking time from work because they're with their kids. That's not the only source of guilt. The other one is working parents tell me all the time they feel really guilty taking time to do anything for their own self-care, anything to fuel themselves, because they feel like they should either be there with their kids or with their work. And I so get that. I think until my daughter was about 10, I don't think I took an hour away from her if it wasn't work related. I thought it was like a mortal sin in some way to take time away from my daughter because I'm working so much already. Oh my God, on the weekend I have to spend every minute with her. Well, here's the thing. You know what that did? That meant I never fueled my energy. I was exhausted. I was depleted. I was overwhelmed, and I brought that energy to her as well. And that sucks. That really sucks. And it's really painful to recognize, but I share this with you because I want to encourage you to make time for your own self-care, because you cannot give what you don't have. You cannot give to your kids and your work and people you care about the energy that you don't have. And so if it's constantly being drained by you feeling guilty that you're not spending enough time at work or not spending enough time with your kids, if you're not fueling your energy by practicing self-care, well then what is it that you can give to your kids? What is it that you can bring to your work? You cannot give what you don't have. It's one of the most powerful reminders that I use whenever that guilt creeps in. If I'm doing something for self-care, or if I catch myself in the guilty thoughts, I remind myself I cannot give what I don't have. And guilt drains my ability to give. And not doing anything to support myself or practice self-care, it drains my ability to be an awesome mom that I care about being, to do this work, including the work I'm sharing with you right now. And so that is my final, let that be your mantra. Let that be your big reminder when the thoughts of guilt creep in, that you cannot give what you don't have. And guilt only zaps your energy. And so how can you shift, right? How can you ask yourself, is this guilt helpful? How can you talk back to your brain? How can you remind your brain that guilt is only draining your energy? That instead of focusing on feeling guilty, you want to focus on how do you stay really present when you're with your kids? What are fun things you can do together? How can you meaningfully be there with them? And how can you do the same when you're at work? And how can you remind yourself as a working parent that fueling your emotional, mental, and physical energy, practicing self-care, that's a definition of self-care, by the way. Self-care is a skill of optimizing and fueling your emotional, mental, and physical energy. How can you remind yourself that doing that never takes away from anyone? It is actually fueling your ability to be the awesome parent, the awesome colleague, the awesome leader that you really are. And again, for me, the shorthand for that is you cannot give what you don't have. I hope this is helpful. I love hearing from you in the comments. So if this resonated or you have a question, please share. And again, if you enjoy this video, please like it. It helps other people find it. And please subscribe to my channel. I share a video similar to this on one of the emotional health and fitness skills to support your well-being every single week.